Breaking news out of Santa Clara, and if you're a 49ers fan, this is one of those moments where you probably stopped what you were doing just to see what actually happened. The Niners have officially filled their defensive coordinator vacancy, and it's a familiar name stepping into that role. Raheem Morris is back with Kyle Shanahan, and this move didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was the result of a fast-moving coaching carousel around the league, a little bit of patience from Shanahan, and the perfect timing when Morris became available. As soon as the NFL's head coaching dominoes started falling, you could feel this coming. The Raiders moved toward their new head coach, the Cardinals made their hire, and suddenly every opening across the league was spoken for. That's when the 49ers were finally able to act. Robert Saleh's departure to become the Titans' head coach left a massive hole in San Francisco's defensive staff, and for a moment, it looked like this could go a few different directions. Gus Bradley was already in-house. Joe Woods had been interviewed. There were outside names floating around. But all along, Kyle Shanahan was waiting. He was waiting to see if Raheem Morris would land another head coaching job. When that didn't happen, the 49ers moved quickly. Morris, who was recently let go as the Falcons' head coach and had been a finalist for the Cardinals' opening, became available. And once the door opened, Shanahan didn't hesitate. This is a coach he knows. This is someone he trusts. And most importantly, this is someone whose defensive philosophy lines up with what the 49ers want to be moving forward. If you're someone who's been wondering whether San Francisco would continue bouncing between different defensive identities, this hire gives you a pretty clear answer. The Niners are going back to their roots. After experimenting with different approaches over the last couple of seasons, Shanahan wanted stability, familiarity, and a proven system that fits his roster. Raheem Morris checks every single one of those boxes. Before we go any deeper, make sure you're subscribed to Niners News and turn on notifications. We're pushing hard toward 1,000 subscribers, and if you want fast updates on every coaching move, roster rumor, and offseason decision, this is the place to be. Also, take a second and like the video if you appreciate getting breaking Niners news without the fluff. It really helps the channel grow. Now, let me ask you this right away, do you think Raheem Morris is the right choice for defensive coordinator? Simple yes or no. Drop your answer in the comments, and if you want, add one word that describes how you feel about this hire. I'll be reading through those. What makes this move especially interesting is how familiar it feels. Just like last year, Shanahan had a preferred candidate in mind, but he couldn't officially make the hire until the league finished its head coaching cycle. Last time, that was Robert Saleh. This time, it was Raheem Morris. In both cases, Shanahan essentially played the waiting game, hoping his guy wouldn't get scooped up by another team. And in both cases, it worked out. That tells you something about how Kyle Shanahan operates. He's not rushing these decisions. He's not making panic hires. He's identifying the coach he believes fits his vision, then waiting until the timing is right. Even though Gus Bradley was seen by many as the next man up, Shanahan never promised him the job. He kept his options open, interviewed multiple candidates, fulfilled the league's requirements, and ultimately landed on the coach he felt gave this defense the best chance to succeed. And this isn't just about filling a vacancy. This is about setting the direction for the entire defense heading into a crucial offseason. The roster could get younger. There could be turnover at multiple positions. Draft picks are coming in. Shanahan wanted someone who could guide a potentially evolving unit while keeping the overall identity intact. That's Raheem Morris. Morris brings head coaching experience, Super Bowl experience, and a deep understanding of both sides of the ball. He's coached offense. He's coached defense. He's managed locker rooms. He's coordinated championship units. And now he's stepping into a situation where the expectations are high, the pressure is real, and the fan base is ready to see this defense get back to being dominant. In just a moment, we're going to dig into the real story behind Shanahan and Morris, how their relationship started, and why that history matters so much for this hire. Because this reunion goes way deeper than most people realize, and once you hear it, you'll understand exactly why Kyle Shanahan felt so confident making this move. What makes this hire really click into place is the history between Kyle Shanahan and Raheem Morris, because this isn't some surface-level professional connection. This goes back years, and once you understand that timeline, this move feels a lot less surprising and a lot more intentional. Their relationship really started taking shape in Washington. Back in 2012, Raheem Morris joined Mike Shanahan's staff, which is where Kyle was already working and building his reputation as one of the league's brightest offensive minds. That's where the foundation was laid. They didn't just pass each other in the hallway. They worked together, exchanged ideas, and built mutual respect in a pressure-packed environment. Those early years matter, because that's where Shanahan learned how Morris thinks, how he communicates, and how he leads. Fast forward a few seasons, and Kyle Shanahan lands the offensive coordinator job in Atlanta. One of the first things he does is bring Raheem Morris with him. But here's the part a lot of fans forget: Morris didn't come in strictly as a defensive coach. He actually spent time coaching wide receivers on Shanahan's staff. That's huge. It gave Morris first-hand experience on the offensive side of the ball, learning how Shanahan designs plays, attacks coverages, and manipulates defenses. Shanahan has talked before about how valuable it is for coaches to understand both sides of the game. It makes you sharper. It helps you anticipate tendencies. And it allows you to build defenses that don't just react, but attack offenses where they're weakest. Morris absorbed all of that. He learned Shanahan's offensive philosophy from the inside, which now gives him a massive advantage as the 49ers defensive coordinator. If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, make sure you like the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your reminder. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps get us there. After his time working with Shanahan in Atlanta, Morris continued building his resume across the league. He moved back fully into defensive roles, eventually becoming the Falcons' defensive coordinator, then serving as interim head coach, and later joining Sean McVay's staff with the Rams. That Rams stretch is especially important, because Morris was the defensive coordinator during their Super Bowl winning season. That's not just a bullet point on a resume. That's real experience coordinating a championship-level defense on the biggest stage. Then came his opportunity as head coach in Atlanta. That stint didn't end the way Morris wanted, but that doesn't erase everything he brings to the table. Head coaching jobs are complicated. They depend on roster construction, front office alignment, quarterback play, and timing. What matters for San Francisco is that Morris now returns with even more experience, having managed entire organizations, handled adversity, and learned what works and what doesn't when you're in charge. And this is where Kyle Shanahan's thinking becomes clear. He didn't just hire a coordinator. He hired someone who has been in every possible role. Morris has coached offense. He's coordinated elite defenses. He's been an interim head coach. He's been a full-time head coach. That perspective is incredibly valuable, especially when you're dealing with a roster that could be transitioning and getting younger over the next couple of seasons. Let me ask you this: which stop in Raheem Morris' career matters most to you right now? His time with Shanahan in Atlanta, his Super Bowl run with the Rams, or his head coaching experience? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me why. Another important piece here is trust. Shanahan knows exactly what kind of system Morris prefers. He knows how Morris runs meetings. He knows how he teaches. And he knows how Morris connects with players. That matters because the 49ers don't want another year of adjustment pains. They already tried pivoting away from their core defensive identity, and it didn't go the way they hoped. This hire is about returning to something familiar, something proven, and something Shanahan fully believes in. It also explains why, even with Gus Bradley waiting in the wings, Shanahan held off. Bradley has plenty of experience and would have been a safe option. But when Morris became available, Shanahan saw a chance to reunite with someone who fits his long-term vision more closely. This wasn't about disrespecting anyone already on staff. It was about upgrading where he felt he could. And now that Morris is in place, the next big question becomes how this actually translates on the field. What kind of defense? Are the 49ers going to run? How much changes from what we saw under Saleh and DeMeco Ryans? And which players stand to benefit the most from Morris' approach? Alright, let's talk football now, because this is where the hire really starts to matter. When you look at Raheem Morris stepping in as defensive coordinator, the biggest takeaway is that the 49ers aren't reinventing themselves. They're recalibrating. This is a move back toward the defensive identity that made San Francisco one of the most feared teams in the league over the last several seasons. Think disciplined fronts, aggressive but controlled pressure, and a coverage structure that lets elite athletes play fast instead of thinking too much. Under Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans, the 49ers built their defense around speed, physicality, and simplicity. Everyone knew their assignment, and that allowed playmakers to attack. Things shifted when the staff tried blending in different concepts, and the results were uneven. Shanahan clearly decided that experiment had run its course. With Morris, you're getting a coach who's comfortable running a system that looks a lot like that familiar Seattle-influenced structure, the same defensive family tree that powered the Legion of Boom and later helped San Francisco dominate NFC opponents. The difference is Morris brings his own wrinkles. He's not just copying and pasting an old playbook. His defenses tend to emphasize versatility in the secondary, creative pressure packages, and matchup-based adjustments depending on opponent tendencies. Because he's coached offense, Morris has a strong feel for what quarterbacks hate seeing pre-snap versus post-snap. That usually shows up in disguised coverages, late safety rotations, and blitz looks that force quick decisions. That matters for a 49ers roster that's built around winning in the trenches and letting the back end capitalize on mistakes. If you're wondering what changes first, start with communication and alignment. Morris is known for stressing clarity. Players know where they're supposed to be. That sounds basic, but it's everything at the NFL level. Missed assignments kill drives. Tight communication creates turnovers. Expect an emphasis on eliminating busted coverages and making sure everyone is on the same page before the ball is snapped. Now let's talk personnel, because this is where fans really start leaning forward. The defensive line should feel right at home. Morris has always prioritized pass rush without sacrificing gap integrity. That means your edge rushers get opportunities to attack, while interior defenders are coached to collapse pockets and disrupt throwing lanes. For San Francisco, that fits perfectly with how this roster is constructed. The front four remains the engine of the defense, and Morris knows how to let that group dictate games. Behind them, linebackers are going to be asked to play fast and downhill. Morris' system relies heavily on second-level defenders who can diagnose quickly and close space. If the 49ers do end up getting younger at this position through the draft, that actually aligns with Morris' coaching style. He's worked with developing talent before, and he's comfortable teaching aggressive principles to younger players as long as the fundamentals are solid. The secondary is where you might notice the most visible adjustments. Morris likes flexibility. Corners will be asked to handle both man and zone responsibilities, and safeties will be moved around to disguise intentions. You'll likely see more pre-snap movement, more rotating coverages, and more situations where quarterbacks think they're getting one look, only to see something completely different once the ball is snapped. That's how turnovers happen. If you'd like a full episode breaking down the 49ers defensive scheme with visuals and examples, comment scheme deep dive below. If enough of you ask for it, I'll put that together. Another important factor here is development. Morris has a strong track record of helping players take the next step, especially in the secondary. He's coached Pro Bowl level talent and helped young defensive backs grow into reliable starters. With the 49ers potentially adding more draft picks on defense this offseason, that developmental ability becomes even more valuable. And this isn't just about X's and O's. It's about leadership. Morris brings a calm but commanding presence. Players respect him. He's been in Super Bowls. He's been a head coach. When someone like that walks into a meeting room, people listen. That kind of credibility matters, especially after a season where consistency was sometimes missing. Let me throw this one to you. Do you think the 49ers defense will be better, worse, or about the same next season with Raheem Morris calling the shots? Vote in the poll and explain your choice in the comments. Now, there's also a ripple effect from this hire that we haven't fully talked about yet, and that's what it means for the rest of the coaching staff. Gus Bradley, Joe Woods, and others were all part of this process. Shanahan had options. He chose Morris. So what happens next? Does Bradley stay? Do other roles change? And how does this affect the long-term outlook, including whether Morris could be a head coach again in the near future? Alright, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, because Raheem Morris stepping in as defensive coordinator doesn't just impact Sundays. It reshapes the entire coaching staff and gives us clues about how Kyle Shanahan is thinking long-term. First, let's talk about Gus Bradley. He was widely viewed as the in-house favorite. He's a former head coach, he's coordinated defenses before, and he already knew the building. If Shanahan wanted the easiest transition possible, Bradley would have been the straightforward choice. But the fact that Shanahan waited for Morris tells you everything. This wasn't about convenience. It was about fit. Now, that doesn't automatically mean Bradley is gone. There's still a real possibility he stays on staff in another role, especially if both sides feel there's value in continuity. But it does make one thing clear: when Shanahan believes he can upgrade, he will. He fulfilled the interview process, evaluated his options, and once Morris became available, that was the move. Joe Woods falls into a similar category. He was interviewed, respected around the league, but ultimately not the direction Shanahan wanted to go. That speaks to how specific Shanahan's vision is right now. He wasn't just looking for a capable coordinator. He wanted someone who already understands his philosophy, someone who could walk in on day one and speak the same football language. That's Raheem Morris. And this also explains why the timing felt so familiar. Just like last year with Robert Saleh, Shanahan essentially parked the decision until the head coaching cycle wrapped up. Morris was a finalist for the Cardinals' job. There was a real chance he'd be hired elsewhere. Once Arizona went with Mike LaFleur and all 10 head coaching vacancies were officially filled, the waiting game was over. That's when San Francisco made it happen. From Shanahan's perspective, this was patience paying off. Now, let's talk about the future, because one of the first questions fans always ask after a hire like this is, how long do we actually get to keep this guy? With Saleh, it felt almost inevitable that he'd be back on the head coaching market quickly. His personality, presence, and previous experience made him an obvious candidate. With Morris, it's a little different. Yes, he's been a head coach. Yes, he's won a Super Bowl as a coordinator. But right now, it doesn't feel quite as automatic that he's gone in one season. That could be a good thing for the 49ers. Morris now has a chance to reset his career in an ideal situation. He inherits a talented roster, works with a head coach who trusts him, and runs a system he believes in. If the defense thrives, opportunities will come. But there's also a realistic scenario where Morris stays put for more than a year, giving San Francisco continuity on that side of the ball instead of another quick turnover. And that continuity could be massive, especially with a defense that might get younger through the draft and offseason moves. Having the same coordinator guiding player development over multiple seasons is how good defenses turn into great ones. 4. Fans, there are a few clear things to watch moving forward. Pay attention to how quickly Morris assembles his defensive staff. That will tell us a lot about his priorities. Watch the draft. If the 49ers invest heavily on defense, that's a strong signal they believe Morris can accelerate development. Listen to training camp reports. Communication, alignment, and energy are usually the first things players talk about when a new coordinator takes over. And once the season starts, keep an eye on third downs and red zone defense. Those areas often show the earliest signs of whether a coordinator's system is clicking. Let me ask you this before we wrap up. What's the one thing you want Raheem Morris to fix immediately on this defense? Is it pass coverage? Tackling? Creating turnovers? Leave your answer in the comments, and I'll pin one of the best responses. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed to Niners News, because we're pushing hard toward 1,000 subscribers, and when we hit that mark, I'll do a live Q&A and bring on a guest so we can break down everything Morris related together. Also, don't forget to like the video, it helps this reach more faithful fans just like you. Bottom line, the 49ers didn't just fill a vacancy. They made a calculated move to bring in someone Kyle Shanahan knows, trusts, and believes can stabilize and elevate this defense. Raheem Morris brings experience, championship pedigree, and a deep understanding of Shanahan's football DNA. Now it's on the players and staff to turn that into results on the field. Stick with the channel, because this offseason is just getting started, and we'll be covering every move along the way. Before we wrap, one last quick vote. Do you see Raheem Morris becoming a head coach again soon, or do you think he sticks with the 49ers for a while? Yes or no, drop it below.